Today we are joined by Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence, who lost her leadership bid by one single vote. And so the discussion is, as we continue to elect more Black women to office, we need to ensure that Black women are in leadership in our state houses, in Congress. And today we're going to explore the conversation around how do we continue to lean into and frankly harness our leadership as Black women step into these leadership roles. So Brenda Lawrence has lived in Michigan's 14th congressional district, which is a portion of the city that she represented as mayor, the city of Suffield. I know that my co-host, Fatima Goss-Grays and Tracy Sturtevant would have loved to have coffee with Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence this morning, but I have the distinct pleasure, because of scheduling, to be able to be in this conversation. She was first elected to the House of Representatives in November of 2018, and she serves as the co-chair of the Bipartisan Congressional Caucus for Women's Issues, and is the second vice chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. We are so happy that she's going to have a cup of coffee with us today. And we look forward to hearing a conversation about Black women and the lack of leadership. I shouldn't say it's a lack of leadership, because we have more Black women run Congress. The question is, what is the work moving forward to ensure that we are creating the environment for Black women to be in leadership in the House of Representatives? So Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a much needed conversation. First of all, I want to thank Higher Heights for everything that you do, helping to knock down barriers. You have been in the community. You have nurtured and developed women to have the courage to stand up and run for so many different political positions. So just thank you for that. When I ran for a leadership position, and I want to make it clear, inside the caucus and any government body, there are positions. There is the table. So when you're elected to Congress, you're in the big house. But then there is the smaller table within the big house. And that can, your speaker, your whip, your floor leader, your caucus chair, all these different positions. And since in 44 years, we have not had a Black woman to be elected to one of those positions that sit at the small table of leadership. Now, Shirley Chisholm, who is one of my idols, I stand on her shoulders. She broke so many barriers for me. I like the fact that she's sitting behind you, and she was just such an amazing person. She was the last Black woman 44 years ago to be elected to a leadership position in our Congress. How do you get to be a leader? There is an election among your peers. So I came into Congress in 2014, and every new Congress, there's another election. Nancy Pelosi has been elected every single time, Steny Hoyer, Clyburn, but there's been other elections who are part of the leadership. And every single time, every new Congress, there is a Black woman that puts her name on the ballot, and she has lost. And when I lost by one vote, I started doing the research, and that's unacceptable.
Absolutely, and I think it was important that you sparked this conversation. We do a lot of research on Black women in elected leadership. And so this is an example about us leaning further into that leadership to be able to highlight Black women once elected. We are obviously, Black women have been, everybody's thanking us. I was just in an article we didn't quote unquote save America for y'all, right? We're fighting for our survival. And so there's definitely discussion about Black women in elected leadership. All of the Black women in Congress are outspoken and advocates on a variety of issues that constituents in America, media, we follow. So I don't think anyone would have ever recognized that there wasn't a Black woman in leadership. Obviously, there have been Black women that are chairs of the Congressional Black Caucus. That is great. That is an important role. But the fact that you have rolled back and highlighted the fact that there is a space that we need to lean into around a strategy around ensuring that Black women, like you said, I worked 6 years in the state legislature as a chief of staff of a state senator, and that small table is an important table about moving priorities to the larger table and the larger floor.
Absolutely. And the thing that, because when I had this conversation, I had it to the entire caucus, there were some members who said, wait a minute, you've got Black women who are chair of committees. I said, because we operate on seniority. It was not the consensus of our caucus. We are, and I tell them, we take pride in being the party of the big tent. We are the most diverse political party. Our House has all these Black women who are represented, but yet and still when we step up for a vote of our peers, we fall short. And I can tell you the white men were like kind of taken back. And they said, wow, Brenda, I never paid attention to that. And we as Black women, as you know, work so hard to we lobby for other people, we get the vote, we're out there and we're working. But when we ask for you to vote for us, it's a different story.
Absolutely. So I think you're leaning into outside of sparking the conversation, because you just said it, that people did not know. So you've done number one, notify and inform. And so then I think the question becomes, what's next? What's next for your colleagues in the discussion around the next opportunity when there's leadership opportunities? And I think, frankly, the women that are, part of the SIP community, like us understanding this, I think you informing us about this is important, but like, how can as constituents, how do we play a role in ensuring that our voices are heard?
So this is going to be a campaign, and I've followed your lead and have been in politics now for over 30 years. So I've had a conversation with the Black women in Congress. We know how to galvanize, we know how to go after the vote. And I said, the next Congress, I want every Black woman to put their shoulder to the wheel, and we're going to have a Black woman elected to that seat of power in this Congress. And if we want it, we will get it. And we've never really come together to make that one of our objectives. We're so happy to be there. We have, because of tenure, Eddie Bernice is Maxine Waters. They've been there and they've earned the seniority, because in our caucus, you get chairs of committees by being in the seniority. So I'm developing a strategy and talking among us women to roll up our sleeves and get to work after we get elected to this House to get a seat at the table of power.
Yeah, and this is the next phase. It's what we've, Higher Heights has been working towards, the road to 2020, and certainly beyond 2020 is about the next phase of Black women's political leadership and power. I had said, our trips, organizing trips to the polls isn't just about electing leaders that we can believe in, but it is also demanding returns on that voting investment, and that's in form of policies that directly impact Black women, our families, and our communities, and continuing to claim seats at decision-making tables. And this is the next phase of that work, is ensuring that not only in Congress, but that we have Black women at those small, powerful tables in legislatures across the country.
And I want to use the example of our Vice President, Kamala Harris. I endorsed her when she was running for president. And she said something to me that was very true, and I just appreciate the fact she recognized. She said, I know you stepping out endorsing me was a political hit on you. Because people ask me, what the heck are you doing? You know she could never be president. But I know that positioning her to have that platform of a candidate for president raised her profile and positioned her for her future, even if she didn't win at this time and she wanted to run next time. But when she started being vetted for vice president, I was still there, pulling all the chips I had, I still support her. This is why she would make a great vice president. But we as Black women, as we fulfill our personal goals, and that's what Higher Heights is about. It's about the collective. It's about, we have now breaking a huge barrier in America with Kamala Harris. And we know that once those barriers are broken, like Shirley Chisholm, there's many more of us to follow because we are primed and ready for those leadership positions. And so that's what I'm going to do in Congress. I'm putting my sisters together and say, we are going to have a Black woman elected by our peers, and she will be sitting at that table of power in the next Congress.
Absolutely. And Rep. Lawrence, we were early out in those Kamala Harris streets when she was running for president. If you remember, we trucked down to South Carolina for a Black Women in Action weekend. I love that weekend. Is still one of my favorite weekends. And President Harris once said to Higher Heights leadership is we have to believe in the political possibilities of Black women. And that's what we've been doing, right? We believed in the political possibility of Kamala Harris's presidency. And that's one of my, like, when I'm rocking in my chair, it's gonna be one of the things I remember. It was you, me, actress Cheryl Lee Ralph on that stage in South Carolina when Kamala Harris signed her name to be officially on that ballot. And it was a room full of multiracial, multi-generational, but to see Black women of different ages there, seeing the possibilities that exist for Black women's leadership in Kamala Harris. So thank you for your leadership on that.
Yes.
So we have finally made it into February. January was the longest month. People said it was the 13th month of 2020, which we thought was going to be, we were like, 2020 is gone, and then January comes.
Yes.
Would love for you to reflect on a couple of, obviously it was a busy month for y'all. Obviously, concerned about your life during the insurrection and the riots on January 6th. And then just 2 weeks later, you were back at the Capitol with the swearing in of, I shouldn't say, January 6th, a Wednesday, insurrection the next week, impeachment the week after that, the inauguration of Joe Biden, and the swearing in of Kamala Harris as the first woman and Black woman vice president. Share your reflections about the whirlwind of the 13th month of 2020.
We call it, we survived the 3 eyes. I'm gonna make a t-shirt. I survived the 3 eyes of January 2021. So that insurrection, I was one of the members on the floor. I'm a homegirl. I'm a little Black girl from the east side of Detroit. And so when they told us to get on the floor and they used the word, they're coming, they're headed our way. And then to tell us to find a place to shelter, and then to start hearing them banging on the door, and then said, pull out the gas mask. I'm sitting there going like, oh my God, am I gonna die today? What is going, because I had no idea the magnitude of it, because I'm on the floor working. I didn't know all that was going on. And then to be, run down back hallways and stairs to try to get us somewhere safe. I was so, the anxiety of that. But then Nancy Pelosi came in there. She was obviously rattled as well. She said, we are at war. We have been attacked, and they are not going to win. We're going to go back on that floor, and we're going to do our constitutional duty. They are not going to win. They're not going to stop us. And I'm sitting there going like, girl, I need a drink, a psychologist, and everything else at this point. I'm done. And then I am so proud of that moment, that walking over tear gas cans and walking over broken glass and all of that, we walked right back into those chambers and did our constitutional duty. That was a defining moment for me. This is bigger than just winning an election. This is about the work. And this is, at that time I had history in my hand. And then to live through that, and then to be able to stand on the floor and to call for the impeachment of a president that incited, organized the army and directed them to come to our capital to attack it. And Lord knows if they had found us with the guns and the bombs and the Ziploc, what were they going to do to us? And they were yelling, hang Pence. And the thing that when I made my speech about this president should be impeached, I said, you as Republicans were running out of these chambers along with the Democrats. This was not an attack on Democrats. This was an attack on our country and our government. And so now, then to sit there, it was that moment I actually exhaled when I saw the president and the President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris being sworn in. Peaceful transfer of power. It was that moment that, yes, I still have hope for this country. And yes, it was my inspiration to keep fighting. So those were, like you said, roller coasters ride from anger to disappointment to hope.
Yeah. So Shirley, since we're channeling Shirley Chisholm all today, she once said, "I have faith in America." And in this month, I went from going, it's hard for me to believe in that quote to then knowing what she meant by having faith in America. And so we certainly appreciate your continued leadership. So I had said something for someone that was a former staff member, of an elected official and worked in a state house, like, you signed up to be a public servant, right? Yes. And staffers signed up to represent. We might have, partisan politics, yes, but certainly, being afraid of your life by showing up to work, mm-hmm, doing the work of the people is not the democracy that is not the democracy of all of our ancestors, regardless of how we agreed about our storied history here in the United States. So thank you for your continued leadership. So I can't stop. Finish this interview without talking about something that people might not know, that you had a distinguished career in the United States Postal Service. Like, every time I think about, how it was trying to be dismantled, mm-hmm, last year, in a time where it was already a strain because of COVID-19, where I go, we always at the SIP have a color purple reference. So the whole, did anything come from me today? And certainly the United States Postal Service continues to, be grappled with not only COVID-19, but, the attack on its very institution. So would love to hear your thoughts, one as someone that has, spent most of your career, helping ensure that I get my mail. Now as a lawmaker and policy innovator, like, what's next? How do we ensure not all of us are completely virtual, and people that depend on mail? And I've seen you talk very passionately and very eloquently about the fact that the U.S. Postal Service is still a lifeline for many Americans across this country.
Absolutely. When we think about our seniors, we think about medications now. When we think about during the holidays where we couldn't shop, we had to order items. The Postal Service is a connector. It's still the connector between families and the community and our business community. So let me tell you, I call the Postal Service my family. It's the largest federal employee next to the military, has the largest fleet of any company. We're the only company or organization that touch every single household every day, 6 days a week. Mm-hmm. So when you start messing with my post office and knowing the hardworking people, because I was there, I was a letter carrier when I first started. So I know the hard work that postal employees give, and how dare you? Because the Postal Service is established in our Constitution. A lot of people don't know that. When they say, oh, we're just going to get rid of it, you can't get rid of it. It's in our Constitution that we have a Postal Service. And when they thought they had a out to stop the mail-in ballots, then they went for the Postal Service. And I'm so proud of the workers, despite all the chaos, taking away machines and sorting machines, taking away collection boxes. We persevered, and we man, we got those ballots. And every post office I called around the country, there was zero focus on making sure those ballots got through the mail system. And so I'm so proud of them. And I sit on government oversight and in reform. And I asked for that committee ever since I've been in Congress, because that's the one that takes care of the Postal Service. And Nancy Pelosi and everyone knows I need to be on that committee so I can take care of the Postal Service.
Yeah. You don't realize, like, I am definitely in the auntie realm. I still like going to the post office. And I certainly, like yesterday I had a piece of mail and I was like, oh, I forgot to go to the post office. But it absolutely is a lifeline, and we should be talking about the innovation, right? COVID-19 has provided places to show how we can do things virtually, and that the United States Postal Service, which has been here for how long? I mean, it's like over a century, like beyond a century old.
Oh yeah.
That as much as people think that it's like old and needs, like, it is actually consistency.
Yes. It's constantly innovating because it has to. We shifted from the majority of our mail volume being letters and cards to parcels. And we are a lot of people don't know this, we're the last mile. So if you send something to UPS and you send it to your grandmother in Tupelo, Mississippi, UPS is not going to drive down that country road to take that one parcel. They're going to go to the post office in Tupelo, drop it off there, and let the post office deliver it. And a lot of people don't realize that. Say, oh, I don't use the Postal Service. You're using it every day. And so we have had so many innovations and opportunities to grow. And it's a challenge because, like you said, we're putting the wheel on while the car is moving, but I'm very proud of the innovations of the Postal Service.
Yep. And before we let you go, I have a thank you and a gratitude towards you. Again, when you talk about the memories I will have when I'm rocking in my chair, when we've actually built that democracy we can believe in, is that I was your guest to the State of the Union 2 years ago. And so for a government girl, like, I've done everything. I don't need, it was great to be in the building. And, you know, people grapple, you're going to go to the State of the Union with that particular president. Yeah, that is how government, like how our government, you know, the stability of our government is that there's a State of the Union, right? Regardless who's in the president. So that being said, you know, as we are moving into, you know, we're in the 100th day of the new administration, just want to hear one thought, particularly as it relates to your role as a co-chair of the Women's Issues Caucus. What is the thing you want to see for women in these first 100 days?
You know, the thing, I'm co-chair of the Women's Caucus, and I am zero focused on equality among women. We have so many issues as women that, like, if you want to talk about poverty, women, head of households, the number one demographic of poverty. When you want to talk about student debt, do you know Black women carry the majority of student debt in America? When we talk about maternal mortality, this unacceptable. We have the highest rate of any developed country in the world, and Black women are carrying the brunt of that. So when we start talking about women's issues, I'm zero focused on elevating the voice of the Black woman in America, of ensuring that while we're moving women forward, that we're understanding the need to pay close attention or give resources to an area. Because if you want to reduce poverty, if you bring that single woman head of household out of poverty, we will be a very successful economy in America.
That is definitely a goal. And then it is just being able to ensure that, you know, the Biden-Harris administration, that every piece of their policy and their budget priorities, ensure that we're centering the voices of women, and obviously for us, ensuring that Black women's voices continue to rise. So thank you for your leadership. Thank you for joining the SIP. We hope we can have you back so that we can continue to ensure that our SIP community hears from our congressional members. And thank you so much.
I want you to know that I still believe and I still have hope, because I believe in one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I thank you. I thank you so much for everything that you do. Be blessed and be safe.
Thank you.